What's going on, everybody? Come one, come all. Welcome to the fifth quarter show. Another edition. Is this the first one for April? Remember we had one last week.
No, we went live on the. Oh, we did one on the April Fool's Day. Ironically,
there it is. So we're going with our second show for April. I'm co-host Jay.
It's your man Wood.
Yeah, so it's gloomy outside. Weather's definitely have broken for us. It's not as cold as it was, so that's a good thing. What's going on, Chuck?
Good.
Chuck's good over there.
Chuck's in the house.
Chuck is in the house. So, just to get started, got a lot of things going on today. We got the NCAA hoops that just took place. We're going to discuss some of those. Got NBA, Major League Baseball, NFL. And we got a long list of entertainment. And hopefully we can get to that today and really get into some real good detail because we got a lot of things going on with that. But to start the show off, we're going to go with the NCAA hoops, March Madness. Duke was victorious with their, fifth championship for Coach K?
One for the thumb.
Yes, sir. So he has 5 now. How you feel about that?
Before we jump into that, man, did you go ahead and put that money down on that title? Did you subscribe, man?
No, not at all.
Okay,
not at all.
Moving along to the tournament. What was your reaction? I'm gonna ask you because I only got a couple of points. We're 2 days later, and all the discussions have been out there. So, what's your big takeaway?
I'm gonna be honest with you, Wood, and don't don't get on me for this one. I fell asleep, man. I didn't even watch the game. I didn't watch it live. I didn't. I had to go back and watch it last
classic.
night. Yeah, I had to go back and watch it last night. So I apologize. But what my big takeaway was, it just shows that, I always say that, to win these kind of games, you have to have a good play with your ball handlers. They have to step up and make some big shots. I thought Wisconsin definitely had Duke right where they wanted them, with 2 of their big guns on the bench with foul trouble. And they were up, I think, maybe 8 or 9 points, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
But it just seems like, some of those young guys just came to play and took over the game. And that was kind of, strange for me, especially with, a strong, upperclassman type team like Wisconsin to get overcome by some young guys. But it just looked like those guys wanted a little bit more come down the stretch. How you feel about it?
Yeah, I want to leave some room for our expected callers tonight and run with whatever they have. One point you made to me a long time ago, and just some conversations before the fifth quarter show was ever thought of. You mentioned on the college football side that a team's starters, like at the big programs, when they play those smaller schools and the mid majors and whatnot, what usually happens is those smaller schools have, they have a few decent players on the team, or 1 or 2 maybe in some instances. But what happens is the disparity or the gap becomes fully revealed once the backups for the smaller team come in, and the backups for the big school are still All-Americans, 3, 4, 5-star kids, and that's where the gap is. And I think after looking at this and hearing one, and I'll get into one statement that I heard Coach K make, I think that coaching staff, obviously Coach K is a little better than Coach Bo Ryan, right?
I would think so.
However you want to rank that, on a scale of 1 to 10, or I don't know how you would rank it, but he's probably a little better of a coach than Bo Ryan. But I think when you get to those assistants, I think the sharpness of Duke's assistants and their in-game things that they were focusing on, and the adjustments that they were suggesting as a coaching staff, I think that's what led to them being victorious here. And I just say real quick, what I heard from Coach K just kind of had me on my heels. I caught him on Mad Dog Unleashed. He said he got his team to the sideline very early, and said that you guys it's a big difference between taking shots and scoring.
No doubt.
And you can see at a certain point in the game, his team, that one-handed flip up there that Jones hit at the end of the game to get that 3-point play to and one.
Right.
To make that shot, that's not shooting the ball. That's scoring.
Right.
And I think that's where the gap. But for the coach to point that out, that just went to show me how attuned Coach K is to what's going on out there on that court.
Yeah, man. Coach K is definitely a Hall of Fame coach. He's been in a lot of the battles, and he definitely knows what's going on. And some of the things that he says to his teammate you just mentioned, to get the best out of them in key moments, is really, it sticks with them and make them definitely play hard. But, with the game, man, it just looks like for some odd reason, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, that guys like Tyus Jones and Grayson Allen.
Right.
I just felt that, when it came crunch time, they didn't look intimidated. And I don't think that they were intimidated because I think that they were not intimidated because I just don't think that they were really scared of Wisconsin. And I think you just hit the nail on the head. I'm thinking, even though, you respect your team, the team that you're playing against, you think of them like, hey, guys, we play for Duke. We're here for a reason. Those guys play for Wisconsin. They're there for a reason. I'm not saying that Wisconsin has lesser players or whatever because I know it's a team game. But it just seems to me like those two guys, Jones and Allen, would have never taken off on a team like Kentucky who has more superb athletes. I think what happened was during the game, what I saw was some of that athleticism that Duke, that Duke have on their bench. I don't think Wisconsin had it. I think that they, were just a little bit quicker than Wisconsin. And I think that another thing that I think affected Wisconsin a lot was the game before. I think the game against Kentucky really took a lot out of Wisconsin. I really believe they got tired down the stretch where, like you just mentioned, Duke had a lot more guns, had a lot more of those high 3, 4, and 5 stars. And I just think overall talent just, prevailed in that game.
There were some reports that Wisconsin celebrated late Saturday night. Like they did some celebrating with the fans that surrounded the hotel, and the kids were on balconies or something taking selfies and just kind of relishing in that victory with their fans. And I don't want to sit here and blame it on that solely. I just think it just comes down to putting the ball in the basket. And I said from the beginning that they were going to, at some point when they got against the better teams, they were going to have to get off of that offense and somebody was going to have to score some buckets. One of the guards from Wisconsin didn't even score. 62 points scored by the Duke freshman, 19 points by Tyus Jones in the second half, only 4 points from Decker. And I think right there, Deck didn't show up. He showed up big in those 2 games. But really quickly, and I hate to steal this point from somebody else that just brought it to my attention. He might call later. But to your point that you were just mentioning, we didn't even mention or take a look at this at the time. But look who Wisconsin went through to get there.
Okay.
Oregon, UNC, Arizona, and Kentucky.
Right.
And Duke went through Robert Morris, San Diego State, Utah, and MSU, Michigan State, Sparty. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because the tables have kind of turned because Bo Ryan made the rent-a-player comments and we don't do the one-and-done stuff. And he's actually talking about Coach K. But then Coach K, I've been saying for 10 years that Duke seems to get that easy bracket every year. And it happened once again right under our noses, and nobody really made a big deal of it. So this was just an awkward tournament in, the chain of events that led up to who was facing who in the championship game. But I thought it was a great March Madness. Grayson Allen, as you mentioned, he ended up being that one kid that we learn about some new star every year, and we didn't, like Wally Zerbiak's year. I'm trying to think of remember that one year when I think it was Wyoming, back to them,
right?
When big game, James Arsenault or something had 50 points. So we didn't meet anybody new this year until this Grayson kid came along in the semi and in the championship game. Really quick, off of that real quick, we got a local kid here, Luke Kennard, down in Franklin, 45 minutes south of here. Any thoughts on Kennard and Allen being on the wings at the same time next year?
Well, the thing about Luke, I really believe in my heart that Luke is going to have a good college career because he can do one thing well that you can't teach. You can practice it and you can get some reps up, but he's a pure shooter. He's a volume shooter. So he's definitely going to have, I think, a good college career. I think, for one, Okafor has really proved that he needs to come back another year. I really think he needs to work on his conditioning. He needs to work on his body and his nutrition and just get in tip-top shape and improve a few things. I know it's going to be kind of tough to pass up, top 3, maybe the first draft pick type money. But I think it would serve him well to come back one more year and get a little bit more season. But if they have any kind of inside threat and somebody in the paint that can, draw some attention with, you just mentioned, you said Grayson Allen, right? And you said Mr. Luke Kennard over there on those wings shooting that ball. Man, that would be deadly. I would have to say they would be probably one of the preseason favorites to repeat. Be one of the favorites to repeat. So I think they definitely have the nucleus to do well. Like I said, I think that in the game, Frank Kaminsky actually showed that he's more pro ready than Okafor, in my opinion. But once again, Frank Kaminsky is a senior and Okafor is a freshman. So I just think it'll be good for Okafor to come back, and I think that if he does come back, they'll be the favorites to repeat.
College basketball is unfortunate because the big man, I think the lanes might be slimmer. The lane might not be as wide as the pros, but the spacing and all that, you can crowd those guys even when they don't have the ball in college, and then you can double and triple them and all that stuff. I don't know. One thing, maybe, and I hate to steal somebody else, but I don't get to watch all the games, but an avid Duke fan pointed it out to me that the team actually played better with Okafor on the court. Yeah. And I think that's because when you're focusing on Okafor, he's getting buckets by twos, and when you got Cook, Matt Jones, and Tyus, when you got all them out there scoring by 3, well then you've in a sense you gave Duke an advantage by sitting him on the bench. So I just thought, and to wrap up my points, I just thought that Wisconsin was so dead set, as they were so dedicated to running their stuff, that when obvious opportunities were there, when Kaminsky had Cook on him in the post on his back, and when Decker had Tyus Jones on his back at the block, they're still out here waiting for my man to run his curl and give it to the man on the wing instead of jumping, changing up script, flipping, getting out of the game, going off script and getting the ball to where the obvious mismatch was. So like I said, I just knew that I felt at some point that was going to be to their detriment, was just the heavy reliance on that offense. And then Trayvon Jackson, I think he was 1 for 9, 1 for 7 or something.
Yes, sir.
He's not that creative guy. Like I said, it was just nobody on Wisconsin's team that could run in there with those floaters and get those tough shots. And that was the difference in the game. One quick senseless, nonsensical observation that I come up with: we used to joke about Kobe Bryant walking like Michael Jordan. You
right.
Remember that rumor?
Yep, that was it.
Does Justice Winslow walk? Does he? I know he's not bow-legged like LeBron, but he got a little LeBron walk in him or something.
Right.
I noticed in the timeouts and stuff.
He got a little gait to his walk or something.
Something similar, like, he's idolized LeBron and everything. And all last to finish up that, I also know I didn't realize that Justice was only 6'8". I thought he was the same height as LeBron. And he looked a little shorter, played a little shorter in that championship game. And him moving forward as a pro, he's got some stuff to work on. But I think he probably goes top 5.
Yeah. So, real quick, do you think Justice and Jaleel, they leave?
They got a lot of time this year because I think this is the first year where they go with they do away with the basketball combine, and it's going to be like 5 weeks of evaluation or something. How do you think? I'll get to that, but how do you think Tyus matches up with all the big men that we've seen come through here lately with Kemba, Trey Burke, Napier, and Boatwright last year, and then also Russell Smith and even Peyton Siva, I guess, for Louisville? I bring all them up because most of them are struggling to find their way in the NBA. So here it is. Here's Coach K, head of the USA basketball team, pretty familiar with the pro game. When they sit down and have that conversation, he's got to listen to Coach K, and I would think that Coach K would say, man, it's a log jam at point guard.
Yeah, man. Man, it's tough to crack that nugget, man. I know I say that all the time, but to play that guard position, we're talking about guard, right? In the NBA.
It's Tyus as a guard.
It's tough, man. It's really, because we've had this conversation so many times. Okay, so tonight I got Westbrook. And then I got to swing through. I'm going to go through Texas. I got to go against Tony Parker. Then I go through after Tony Parker.
After the All-Star break, Tony Parker.
And then who's down in Houston?
You got to go check Harden. Who wants to dominate the ball.
And then who's that?
Ray John's not having a great year in Dallas, but
he's a pro.
He's a pro.
Or maybe I got to go check Monte Ellis, who's a nightmare.
Or him.
It just to play guard.
Conley.
You don't want to think good. You know what I'm saying?
CP3.
It's tough.
And then my man Steph and Dame Lillard up there in that Northwest. So,
right.
I stay in school and get them that education and live where I can dominate for a minute and shine.
There we go. I agree with you there totally. So moving along, man. Fifth quarter bracket, man, was a big thing. Who actually won? End up being the winner with that?
Guy in my boxing class by the name of Mr. Brian White, man. He stayed in there, looming in the middle of the pack, man. He just stayed around. And I thought Joe Knight was sitting nice with one of the few people brave enough to take Wisconsin. He was looking good. And then, like I said, Brian White just snuck in there with it was three people maybe that took Duke. So, but he just ran away with the tournament, though. He was like the only guy in 140 or something, 144 or something. So, I thought the bracket was fun, man. I wish we would have gotten, everybody that was down at the bottom. We had 4, 5, 6 people who didn't get brackets in. It would have been nice to have them in the mix. It looks like the females that were involved, they had a good run. And, we'll get those gifts, those prizes out as soon as possible.
Definitely. Yeah, who is in that? So we got Brian White at 1 with 145. Tara Freeman at 2, Girl Power, at 138. And Mr. Brant Wilson, number 3 at 115. Brant must have got a lot of games correct because he was out of it when Kentucky
for 2 games.
He must have got a lot of games right.
Yeah, he was hot.
Yeah, so there it is. So thank you guys for participating in the fifth quarter bracket. As Wood just mentioned, you will be getting your gifts by the next show. All right. Anything else with the bracket or NCAA?
NCAA wise, I did want to. We don't have to go through all of them, but one thing I heard Stephen A. repeat again that the Harrison brothers were second round picks, which kind of shocked me a little bit.
Wow.
Oubre at Kansas said he was coming out. With the one and done discussion, just one question there. Do you think that the commentators, do they fuel the fire in terms of they want these kids to stay and they're critical of the one and done concept, but then as we sit here and get to the Final Four every year, we work ourselves around to he's a pro.
Right.
He's a lottery pick.
Right.
So that kind of works against the game itself to me.
Yeah, man, the commentators, they are what they are. You know, what it is, when they want to talk about the kids need to stay in school, need to get education, better themselves, and become a better basketball player, that's the hot topic. But when they want to be exciting and talk about this kid is ready for the next level, he's a PT player, he's a one and done. So it just matters what the weather is, It just seems like there's no consistent with some of these commentators. But I don't know, man, with the one and done. I know with I didn't think Kyrie Irving, who had a big injury, right, his freshman year.
Right.
And I was like, why is he leaving? So how do you just can never just see how their game translate to the pro level? Because I never thought Kyrie would be who he is in the NBA right now. I mean, even though it took him some time to, get his feet up under him, he still has some big games as a rookie in the NBA. And I think he was that athletic. But what are some of the key components that we look for these kids to get to that next level and be successful?
I just don't think the measurables are there the way they are in football, and even football is difficult. It's tough. I mean, I think one thing, when the kids get to playing in the LeBron James camps, USA basketball, when that's going on, they take some under 20 and under 21 kids. I think they take them to Europe. I just don't know, man. Like I said, there's another name that a point guard you face being in that 6'2", 6'1". You got to face Kyrie. You got John Wall who's putting it together. You got Kemba. You got Teague. You mess around and go play the Pistons now. You have Jennings and Reggie Jackson there. Paul George just came back. You probably, if you're a better point guard, you got my man up in Toronto who's doing. I just don't know how you just sit here as an 18, 19-year-old kid and say, I'm going to go put one of them people out of work.
Exactly.
I don't get it.
It's tough, man. So you mentioned the Harrison guys, man, and I think we should talk about this a little bit. So Mr. Andrew Harrison, I guess they were on the panel after the loss, and he made some comments that were kind of derogatory towards Mr. Frank Kaminsky. What's up with that, man?
I'm gonna keep my comment really brief. I don't know Frank the Tank, but I'm imagining that he has at least Kanye West and Drake on some musical device. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely.
So he's pretty familiar with the N-word, right?
Oh, he has to be.
Now, I don't know if he lip syncs when he gets to those words. I don't know. I don't know what goes on in Wisconsin's locker room. Whether they need to be sensitive to the music that they play in speakers, loud. I just think for the national media, we want to make a story out of it because it involves that word, but it's not even a story to me. I mean, it's the way that the word is thrown around in what's in the music that's out there. All these kids are listening to the same stuff. I did just hear Kanye's song on the way over here, that All Day,
right? Where
I think he uses it like 200 times in 3 minutes.
You told me that, yeah.
So how can then we turn around and I'm confused.
Right.
That's really my only point on this, man. Is that it's really not a story.
There it is. Yeah.
But do feel free to deal with it, your way.
No, I don't want to deal with it too much. I just want to make sure that these young kids, even though, it's really not a story, that's how they talk. It's just a time to be professional and keep your composure. And it's time to, and you can use that when you want to, but you just can't use it at that time. Because one thing, we teach these kids, we have to tell them, you have to win with class. We always tell them that. You got to win with class. So if you continue to win with class and be respectful, and like we've been, patting them on the back all these fifth quarter shows, saying
that is a good point.
Those guys have been being respectful. They seem humble. They seem like they're not too brass. But then as soon as they face a little bit of adversity, there's a little controversial comment, and that's all I got to say to it. If you win with class and you be respectful when you're winning, just make sure you're the same way, in defeat. And if you can do that, I think it'll be, this would be okay for you down the road.
Who did themselves a bigger disservice in the post-game pressers? Coach Bo Ryan or Andrew Harrison?
Well, it's a big age difference with that. Don't you think so?
It is, but moving forward, whose brand is hurt more by their post-game presser this weekend?
Whose brand is hurt more?
Cause Coach K had to feel like Alonzo from training day. Like you gonna talk about me and
exactly.
One and dones?
Exactly.
Me?
Yeah.
You gonna put a case on me?
Exactly. And the thing about what's that all about with the coach? I mean, come on, man. Once again, if you lose the game, even Calipari, when he lost last week, I thought he was very respectful. I thought he, gave credit to Wisconsin. He thought that, they did a good job during the game, and he congratulated them, and he was happy for them. But some of these coaches and some of these players, they just can't take losing very well. And you're going to have the microphone in your face. You're going to be on panels. You already know this. You already prepped for this.
And that's the thing. He sat there and answered these questions. Now, I know it's right. It's 20 minutes, 15 minutes after the game. And you just get done dealing with these kids that you love dearly for 3 and 4 years. But at least Andrew, he was trying to say it was stupid, but he was saying something under his breath.
Right.
But he just went out there knowing, and then to say the fifth year senior thing, is it 5 years senior or is it one and done? I mean, but I guess last year UConn had the 5th year guy.
Right.
So that's a tough spot for Bo.
Yeah, it's definitely. But Kaminsky, he's old. He knows better than that. He has to. I mean, if he wants to act like that in defeat, how does he? If one of his players after the game, they don't want to shake hands. I mean, how can you tell them like that's wrong if you want to sit up there and criticize one of your colleagues? After they've beaten you, fair and square. Just talking a little bit more about coaching, since we were just talking about coach from Wisconsin. Got some coaches, Mr. Shaka Smart is going over to Texas, right?
What you think about that move, man?
The thing about it is, I just feel that that's a football school, and I think that he's going to be second kind of fiddle in Austin. But I will say this though, Dallas, Houston. It's a recruiting hotbed. If you can somehow get some of those good players in those two areas to stay home, I mean, you can do well. And we know he recruits very well. But I just don't know if I would have went to Texas. To me, if I wanted to leave, I would wait for a job like Indiana. That has the Indiana job. That didn't open up this year, did it?
Nah, actually, me and Chuck were talking beforehand. Indiana's, it was some next year's bracket. Mm-hmm. Early brackets are out there, and I didn't have an insider, which Chuck has.
Oh, okay.
But Indiana is one of the teams that's kind of big in the bracket, so Cream must have some stuff lined up. To your point, I thought I might have hung around until that Syracuse job opened up.
There we go. There we go.
And some people are floating out there that Calipari could leave, so maybe you go to Kentucky.
Yes, sir.
So I'm with you, man. I mean, for him being there, Coach Smart on the football side, that just seems like a unstable situation for the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, man. To me, and maybe I'm wrong, but the only football kind of schools where I will go to and coach as a basketball, be a basketball coach is probably in the Big Ten. I would love to get that Ohio State job, that Mata job, because they sell out every game.
Yeah.
I would love to get that job. Like I said, we said Indiana's really not a football school, but who wouldn't love to go to Indiana and coach? And Michigan, that'd be a good job landing spot. Or maybe, of course, with Michigan State, but that's not happening. But I don't know, man. I just think Shaka, like you said, I think you just hit the nail on the head with the Syracuse gig. That's the kind of gig that you want because, you're a coach and you have a big following. And when you get kind of like swallowed up, being over there in Texas and you have to compete with the football. But I tell you what, the football team hasn't been doing pretty well. And I know, right now, look at our notes, we say that Mr. John Thompson is doing a Black Coaches Association. So I say this to Mr. Shaka Smart and Mr. What's his name? What's the football coach in Texas? Goodness, it's on top of
Strong.
Charlie Strong. Got two brothers.
I might have just called him Smart a couple minutes ago, but I meant Charlie Strong.
Yeah, Charlie Strong and Mr. Shaka Smart over there in Texas. Got two brothers. We trying to do a Black Coaches Association. Y'all ain't no excuse, man. Got to get it done, man. Go ahead. You go ahead.
On you. It's actually the BCA was what John Thompson's father started years ago. Now they're calling it Advocates for Athletics Equality, and that's what John Thompson III and Tubby Smith is also a part of it. Let me ask you, they got to do what they have to do. I know they're gonna pay dues and seek money to be funded and all that.
Right.
Great, but the numbers it dropped from 25% to 22%. That's not the end of the world.
No.
Purnell retired this year from DePaul.
Yes, sir.
And now it's like only, and then it was 12 minority coaches fired this year. My thing is this in basketball, especially, you got to win games.
You got to, Wood.
I mean, football, I understand the struggles there because it's a lot more driven off boosters. You got 100,000 seat stadium that you have to fill. It's this program of 100 people sometimes that you have to run. So when you don't have those leadership skills, defined leadership skills,
Bingo.
I see why it's tough to get that football job.
Right.
But when you just got 15 kids to walk around,
Right.
you got to flat out just win. I don't see no color in this. I mean, it should be some opportunities and and whatnot. DePaul did hire another minority after Purnell's left.
Right.
But Shaka gets a big job. Kwanzaa, we talked about last year, he got a big job. But you have got to win.
You have to, man. And the thing about it is, we just look at sports. I mean, maybe I'm looking at it too simple, but we look at it from the Pee-wee level. We look at it from the junior high and high school level. I mean, how many African American coaches have actually won state championships in high school? I mean, you have to win.
You just got to win.
And I don't know, and I don't know, maybe, and I know every race does this. You want to have people that's around you you're comfortable with, whether that be your assistant coaches and your staff.
Right.
But if I know that if I'm a black coach or a Caucasian coach or a Latino coach, if I know I'm a great, the kids want to play for me.
Right.
And I know that I'm, not the best X and O guy, but I'm a great motivator.
Right.
I'm a great guy to get them pumped up in the weight room and
Right.
want them work hard and somebody they can relate to. And when it comes to their getting their grades and graduating and being a successful adult, but still you got to win. So what do I got to do to win, Wood? I don't get me some guys that know the game, that know the X's and O's, that know after halftime if the score is tied 10-10 in football, or the score is tied 25-25 in basketball, whatever it may be, who's going to help me make that adjustment and relate that to the kids and simplify it so we can be successful in that second half. And that's what it boils down to. And I want the the African American to coach these jobs, gets a lot of these jobs, because honestly, a lot of African Americans are playing on the team.
Right.
So we're naturally right if they do get some jobs. But when you see some of those guys, some of them start in the AAU level, and some of them we know they're high school coaches right now. They're terrible. They got these kids out here. They're rolling out the ball or throwing out the football, and they're like, go play, and letting these kids play off athleticism where you're not teaching them fundamentally sound sports. And I'm not saying that is happening at the college level with these college coaches.
Right.
But I will say this. If you want to have more African Americans in the door and getting jobs, then, I mean, it is what it is. The microscope is on you guys. You got to start winning and being successful and going deep in the March Madness tournaments, and also, winning some of these bowl games in football.
Exactly. That's the thing, is that even aside from the championship games, it's not a lot of these guys that have repeat run. We're not going to see Hunter next year.
Right.
From Georgia State.
There it is.
My man from Oregon, he's not there year in and year out. Now, he had a tough opening game this year, but I'm just saying a lot. The UAB guy, Mike Adams or something like that.
Right.
Hamilton came back to Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
He's another one. He jumped right up to the pros after that one good year instead of, cutting his teeth at that level. So I don't want to drag that out. We got to, you have to win. You have to get these opportunities, and you have to win year after year after year. What is the chances of Avery Johnson? What decision from the university from the university side and from him to leave that studio where you just gotta be entertaining on a nightly basis? You can get all the games wrong and come to work the next day. But what chance in the world does he have in Alabama?
The thing about it is when I saw the track list, Avery Johnson, what is he thinking?
We might have to edit this out, but Avery, it don't even. You can get in, man. I don't have nothing to say.
Avery Johnson. Okay, serious.
He'll keep bouncing those balls with Jalen Rose in the studio.
What is he doing? Who is his agent? But, I mean, they must have paid him a bunch of fat cake. I know they tried to offer our guy, Mr. Archie Miller, the job, and they wanted him to come to Alabama. And Archie, like, there's no way in the world I'm going to Alabama and coach and compete with Nick Saban and that, that empire.
You can't even go to breakfast with Nick Saban.
Exactly.
You trying to get what you want on your omelet, and they're not even listening.
Right. But nah, man, seriously though. I mean, we hope Avery Johnson does
Wish him well.
But is he really? He wasn't really the best coach when he's out there leading the San Antonio Spurs. I mean, he blew the game when he was about to win a championship, didn't he? But anyway, man, I don't know.
That's an awkward move.
I don't know. Maybe the check was just that fat, but there's no way in the world I'm leaving that cushy job with ESPN, man, and being an analyst and talk about some basketball. I thought he was set, to be honest with you.
Because I don't want to drag it out, man. We didn't been on college ball for a minute. I think it's a great discussion. Capel, speaking of another minority coach, he turned down Arizona State.
Right.
We'll see what happens. It's not a lot of new faces with Stevens going to the Celtics. I mean, that was a new face as a Caucasian coach.
Yep.
It's not a lot of new faces in that game. And to see some of these, like Marshall, I'm glad he stayed at Wichita State. But I'm just saying, it's not a lot of new faces in that game. And obviously, we have a 68-year-old Coach K winning his fifth ring this year and being positioned nicely for next year. Patino's been around for decades. So it's just hard breaking into that fraternity. And I wish Avery Johnson well.
Yes, we do. Amen. I think you just summed it up. So moving right along, NBA, man, we're getting close to playoff timing. Like we said, we've been talking about a lot of teams are trying to get hot at the right moment. A lot of guys who were on some injuries are trying to get back and help their team for this playoff run. What you checking for as we get close to, the postseason play?
I'm disappointed. I'm going to keep all my NBA thoughts short, man. I'm disappointed that Durant, was shut down. He had the surgery again. I guess they got to do a bone graft this time after they did 2 surgeries with the screw being inserted. And I'm a little fearful that this guy's career might be shortened. I think the results on it are pretty good with the bone graft. And I'm hoping that the big fella can get it together. The tall fella can get it together and make it back. Rose back in the lineup tonight. We didn't think that was gonna happen.
He came on back.
I don't know, man. I'll be honest with you. It's kind of hard for me I need a week or so or the playoffs to start. PG was back in Indiana Sunday. He came back, had 13 points, I think.
Yes, sir.
So I don't know, man. I need a couple of weeks to get away from March Madness before I can really pick NBA back up.
Yeah, man. I know that maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago we were talking about would the New Orleans Pelicans catch the Oklahoma City Thunder, and I remember you had stated that you thought that New Orleans would catch them, but when I think Chuck and we had said that they were up 3 games, then we all agreed that maybe they wouldn't. But as we sit here today, New Orleans is at the 8th seed, man.
Yes, sir.
So hey, man, we're going with your first.
I should have went with my first thought.
Exactly. So I'm gonna give you kudos. I did take a note of that. But
I heard Eric Gordon is shooting almost 47% from the 3-point range, so that helps. And Tyreek Evans, he's another one of those guys in his 3rd, 4th year, just now figuring it out.
It's tough, man.
Speaking of what we were talking about earlier, so yeah. Gordon, I think he has a ceiling on what he can do, but the Pelicans, man, that matchup definitely isn't as sexy as OKC, and that was actually one of my thoughts that I did have written down was the concerns about Russell Westbrook just being tired going down the stretch.
Exactly, man. The thing about that Anthony Davis, man, he's a beast. He's definitely playing himself to be one of the top 5 players in the NBA. The Pelicans look like they will possibly hold on because, like you said, Westbrook has done so much, and he's getting like minimum help. Have you ever watched them play? It's just like your boy that come from Cleveland.
Waiters.
He is such an anemic basketball player, man. What's up with that dude?
There's a guy on Twitter that I talked to at Kill. He does a couple of podcasts himself, man, and he tweeted out the other day. I thought it was just me being biased,
Right.
but he was like, man, why does Waiters do so much dumb stuff?
It's amazing.
And I'm like, that's why, and I just responded to him that's now you see why LeBron was like, get the hell out of here and kicked him on. Waiters, man, he's one of those guys, and I thought Grayson Allen was doing that in his first couple of shot attempts. He looks to take every shot. He doesn't look to set anybody up. You know, it's like the only time he does give it back to another player is on the dribble, the dribble handoff.
That's it.
But it's never a bounce pass for a layup. And like we said, when we started the fifth quarter show, he was a 6th man in at Syracuse. For him to get drafted in the top 6-7 players was remarkable.
Yeah, it was, man. He must have had a great, like I said, a rookie mini camp or, a little pre-camp before they get drafted. Hey, do you think that in the NBA, we're going to spend too much time on this, do you think they need to, actually make the seeding and doesn't matter what conference you're in? Because right now as we sit, we may have 3 teams from the Eastern Conference that are under 500, and you may have actually 2 or 3 teams from the Western Conference, 2 teams from the Western Conference that are over 500 that will not make the playoffs. Wow. So do you think we need to possibly reseed, just throughout the best record, whether you're in the Eastern or Western Conference?
I think next year a couple of teams are going to have to get it together. Mm-hmm. These injuries and all this stuff. I think a lot of teams, the Pistons, some of these teams that need to get it going, I think they're going to have to take a look at that next year because it's becoming an annual problem.
It is, man.
And I think we got some callers. We have reached that 8 o'clock, so we might have to make room for them as they call in. But that's all, man. I think Silver, that might be the first tough decision that he has to make.
Yeah, I think it's time, man, because it doesn't make any sense to have bottom feeders like Boston and the Brooklyn Nets and Miami having a possibility to make the playoffs, and you have entertaining teams like Oklahoma City and Phoenix who may be on the outside looking in. We have some callers coming in very soon, so the callers are the best part of the show, and we have one coming right now as we speak.
Caller, you on with the fifth quarter show. What's your first name and where you calling from?
First name is Tony. I'm calling from sunny San Diego.
What's going on with you, Tony? What you got for us this week?
Man, I'm still all wild. I'm doing well, by the way. Thanks for asking. I'm still kind of wild up a little bit and pondering on the college basketball. Got some takes on NBA as well. Still thinking about the game that recently passed a couple of days ago.
What's your big take on it? What's bugging you about it?
Yeah. Honestly, I know the refs are getting a lot of slack. I thought Duke's a better ball club. Wisconsin just didn't have the talent. The second time they got beat by Duke this year, and it shows that Duke's one of them players was better than some of the Wisconsin's cagey veterans. But my biggest dilemma that's bothered me is Decker, and the way he got all this hype going into the tournament after his first 2 games, and I felt he did like the ostrich and stuck his head in the sand the last 4 minutes of the game, and when the stage curtains opened up, he forgot his line.
He was only a 32% shooter from 3-point range during the season, so those couple of big threes that he hit in the earlier rounds were crucial, and it was in the big moments. But he eventually just went back to the guy that he is. Let me ask you, do you think that it was just a great coaching move by Coach K to put some smaller guys on him? Because he didn't seem comfortable out on the wing dribbling in space against those smaller guys.
No, that's a good point. Actually, watching the game, I looked at even more insight. I thought the pressure on the point guard which didn't allow Wisconsin to get into the groove of their offense, which was detrimental. Although Decker, like you said, didn't look comfortable on the wing. I thought the point guards was really hurried. It was rushed. They didn't. They weren't coaches on the floor in the second half. Or the first half, they didn't have any turnovers. And so I thought the pressure defensively on the point guard that disrupted the flow of the offense was something that was overlooked.
Yeah, one of Wisconsin's guards didn't even score a point.
Well, I wasn't aware of that. And I just looked at the offense. I said, they're not in the flow. It's the point guard to pull it out, run the offense, and they look like they give the ball to, their player of the year and back up and looking for a bailout. And in fact, your point of Decker, I had to smirk because I was aware of the 32%. I was aware of the two big games he had in opening a tournament. And just to see the media run with that and paint him as the next Keith Van Horn was funny.
Yeah, I saw Bill Simmons actually from ESPN tweeted out during the game that he was too Van Hornish. I thought they had totally different games myself. I thought Van Horn was more he embraced the contact a little bit more from what I remember.
I think on paper there's just the height. He played the three position. I don't think his game was a lot like Keith Van Horn, but when I was thinking back, who is he similar to in the height and on the wing? I think Keith Van Horn had a lot of athleticism to him. He could jump out the gym. He was versatile, but I think the size comparison is what allowed me. I didn't realize he used that example of Keith Van Horn. That's the closest I can find when I was trying to see who he play like.
Last question so you can move on to your other point. Did the air ball 3-pointer, him being wide open on that first shot attempt, did that tell you that something was that a precursor for what to expect the rest of the game?
I didn't put a lot of thought into that. I thought obviously the game of confidence. I thought he was going to the game with a lot of confidence. I just thought the pressure of Duke, the up in their chest, and Wisconsin.
That's a great point.
Wisconsin had the ideal time to take advantage of the Duke foul trouble. When they didn't, I figured that was a testament of Duke's overall time to play. And I love Duke's point guard. That guy has cold water running in his veins.
I haven't seen you don't even see that in the NBA for players to go up and drain free throws the way that he did. That was impressive by that young man. You talking about Tyus Jones, right?
There you go. I was impressed by him calling his own play for the pick and roll at the top of the key about 3 or 4 times in the second half, where it was designed to pick and roll, and I'm pulling the three. He didn't look for a roll. I was impressed with.
Was his final performance, was it better than Shabazz Napier or the same, or do you think Shabazz had a bigger showing last year?
Oh, I think it was better, not numbers-wise. I think Shabazz kind of, I can't say, is more amplified the way he plays with the fancy crossovers, creating going to the rack. It looks more highlight material. And I thought the point guard Jones was very fundamentally sound. He took advantage of the defense gave him. He backed off. He shot the three. You come up on him, he drive by you. And so I think Shabazz, is more of a little N1 flavor to him.
I think Shabazz shot the 3-pointers about 4 feet deeper than they needed to be taken too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hey, what was your other?
I thought it was his way of showing that he had range back then when he did that.
Great point. What else did you have for us, man? You mentioned some other things.
Yeah, I'm curious your take on the NBA on both coasts, the West as well as the East, and how they're battling for positions. Obviously, you can compare and contrast all day, but the West is a lot tougher. And I'm looking at the East, so I want to get your take on the 7th and 8th spot with Cleveland locking up the number 2 seed. Who do you see that Miami would not want to see in the first round out of Jersey, Heat, and Milwaukee?
I think we just covered this. We don't know how it end up at when we edit out up the show. But I think for TV coming on a good March Madness, I think the NBA would really like to see LeBron go up against his former team.
I agree. What do you think the Heat want? What do you think the Cleveland wants? Do you think they don't have that mentality who they play? As far as game of matchups, who do you think Cav? You know I'm a bandwagon Cav fan now.
Oh, that's right.
So LeBron packed his bag. I kind of packed mine too.
LeBron probably would be comfortable taking Indiana or what's the other team?
New Jersey.
Or New Jersey. I mean, he just seems like I don't think anybody intimidates LeBron, but he probably would prefer to just and you know, this is the first time with that nucleus of players being in the postseason. So maybe he'd like to get around versus Indiana or Brooklyn or Milwaukee, one of those teams without true proven people like Flash in Miami.
I can see that. Last but not least, do you think there is so-called beef between Love and LeBron, or do you like the mentality you don't have to get along and be a friend with your teammate off the court in order to gel on the court?
That's a great question, and I think, we covered it last week. From what I was hearing, last week we talked some good stuff about some real behind-the-scenes information on the Cleveland. I don't know if you got a chance to check that show out, but we really just came to the conclusion that Kevin Love is he's not a rah-rah guy.
Okay.
And even in Minnesota, he really, even though he was the focal point of that team, he really stayed to himself. He did his job and went home. And that could just be their working relationship there in Cleveland now. Is I'm not the selfie guy. I'm not the locker room, the organized activities in the locker room and all that stuff. That may not just be Love's. You know, he might not be interested in that stuff.
Well, would Love be satisfied winning a championship and not being a focal point? Or do you think he's a player who wants both, to be the focal point and win?
I think he just takes what he gets this year, and then I think in the offseason he'll make a decision on really what he wants to do long term.
Okay, good point taken. I don't want to take up too much of your time, man. I've been waiting at 12 sports for a while. I've been out of the country, so it's kind of good. I'm a little bit behind, so it's kind of good to kind of get caught up on the latest and greatest. Got the boxing coming up. You know, I'll be in Vegas for the Mayweather fight.
All right, we hoping you call back. We're down to 25 days now, right?
Absolutely.
So I don't know if we're gonna do a strictly boxing show. Maybe we give it a longer segment than what we have tonight. But hopefully you call back and we really chop it up about what your breakdown on that fight.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna go back now. I'm back in Conus and go back and listen to your past shows. And that way I prevent from bringing up issues that were talked about and kind of bring some new, fresh ideas. I'd love to get back so we can kind of get a little debate. You know, I love debating.
Got you.
So I definitely take heed to your past shows, man, and look forward to talking to you, as a good coach to the fight and as we get into the NBA playoffs.
All right, man, I'm going to chop it up with you on IG and other outlets.
Outstanding, man. You have a good one.
Peace, Tony.
All right, well up.
Chuck here with your first break of the night. The Reds won their season opener 5-2 over Pittsburgh. The men's national championship was won by Duke over Wisconsin, and UConn gives Coach Gino his 10th national championship on the women's side. The Spurs walked all over the Thunder 113-88, and the Pelicans topped the Warriors 103-100. Next week, the show will be on Monday, so be sure to look for us a couple days earlier. And please subscribe below, and back on over to you guys.
So, moving along, we got some baseball talk. Major League Baseball actually had opening day. I guess they do it now over the weekend, maybe.
That's kind of odd.
It's weird, man. Opening day really supposed to be Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah, I'm not happy that now that baseball is back in there, now we're going to change things.
Exactly, man. It's all about them red legs. But at any rate, speaking of the Reds, opening day, went against the Pirates. Had a tough game against they played the Pirates, and Cueto. He pitched another great, brilliant game. 7 scoreless innings?
Was it 7 or 8? He didn't get to 8?
Nah, he got to 7.
7, okay.
And then they brought in, I believe, what's the new guy they just brought in? I forgot the relief pitcher, but he wasn't as effective as as their relief pitchers in the past.
Mm-hmm.
He actually blew Cueto's win, and they end up winning in the bottom of the 9th inning, I believe, right? Or 8th inning. No, it was bottom of the 8th inning. I think what is the third baseman's name?
Frazier.
Yeah,
No.
Ty Frazier hit a 3-run home run.
Okay.
And that was a big game. But speaking of the Reds and Cueto, don't you think that, I understand that
BP is down in that 7th hole now, man. I mean, I'm gonna just say this, man. This manager, it's gotta be some dramatic. It's gotta be dramatic going. There's 2 wild card spots now.
right?
If he doesn't take that step this year, I would imagine he's gonna be on a very hot seat.
Yeah, man. And think about manager Price, right?
Right.
How do you get rid of the manager, Dusty Baker, and you hire his pitching coach. It just seems to me that if you want to make a change and want to bring in some fresh eyes and a fresh team to help get your team over the hump, you don't go with the pitching coach. I know Brian Price is well respected. If you wanted to keep him on the staff, you could have let him, stay there, at the same capacity. But actually being a manager of the team, I don't know if that's the guy to actually get the Reds over the hump. And I really believe they have the talent to compete and, actually, like you said, be one of those wild cards or even win win their division. But it just seems that they don't have a coach that will get in the player's face, that will challenge them and get them motivated to perform when they're in that kind of low. Always be, have your mind even keel.
Right.
But you still need a little fire on the bench that'll help you, because it's a long season. So you need somebody that'll motivate you in some of those, down times where, it's not like you're that enthused to be at the park.
You said it perfectly. You needed a change in the team culture because of the strike zone. The plate discipline, getting deep into counts, getting the opposing pitcher high in the pitch count in the 6th and 7th inning or 5th maybe, and doing the things that the Redbirds do. We just mentioned that a couple weeks in football about beating a team in your division. And I just think, like you said, to stick with Price being for me, I'm not taking the guy that was next to the manager, the guy that was next to the guy, because you didn't have enough courage when you were in second in command. You didn't have enough courage to challenge him then to make certain adjustments. And I think really with Dusty from the get-go, I just think it was a rift with him and Votto. I just think Votto wasn't as an aggressive, not aggressive. He was just way too selective for what, for Dusty's preference. And so that just came to a head finally. But like you said, man, I just would have switched it all up because I would have addressed the things that is keeping that separation in place between St. Louis and here. And Price you see last year with the record, he didn't deliver.
Yeah, and what you just mentioned, Votto, and that was another point I wanted to make. I'm going to have to trade Votto because he's a $200 million man, right? I got to get rid of Votto because I got to keep Johnny Cueto.
Exactly.
You have to keep. I don't understand. He actually started the regular season.
Is this his last year on his current deal?
Yes, this is last year.
Shouldn't even came to this point.
Shouldn't have came to this point. And the guy is a workhorse, man. He's definitely a pitcher that you can build your team around. I don't know what they're waiting on, but hopefully, he will, stay with the Reds and continue on, because sometimes, those guys go get those huge deals and you can't blame them for it. But it seems like I'm all about being comfortable too. If I'm used to that mound and I'm used to being in Cincinnati and having a good career, I'm not saying give them a hometown discount, but what I'm saying is if it's fair market value, I'm not chasing the highest contract possible. I want to be to a place where I can be successful and build a winner, with a organization that, I started with.
And I think the Royals just showed you that. And with that extra wild card team, coming online, you just need to be good. You need to be patient, let things happen, and trust in the fact that we can get it done. And like you said, and that's what really ticked me off to expand out to the entire league, new faces and new places with somebody like Scherzer. Okay, he got 60 more million to go to DC, but another guy, like I said, another team outfit out there in the podcast world, the urban sports scene, they're based in DC, and one of their hosts wanted Zimmerman or Strauss to be the opening day guy, and to support that, Scherzer went out there and got banged around a little bit and lost, and that starts the relationship with him and the fans off on the wrong foot from day one. And it was just one game. Quarter show. What's your first name and where you calling from?
My name is Brian, and I'm calling from Dayton, Ohio.
Hey, what's up, Brian? What you got for us tonight?
I got I know you've probably been talking a lot of basketball, but I got an MLB question for you. Major League Baseball started Monday, basically same day as the national final, and it was almost like an afterthought. Do you think there's anything that Major League Baseball can do to get back into the mainstream? Is it just the game? Is it the fact that so few teams can win? Is it we have less attention span in the 21st century? Or what is it that makes MLB? I don't even remember who won the World Series last year.
Well, that's because we had some new faces in there last year, at least on one side of things. I think one thing that we didn't look at, and maybe baseball didn't look at, and that the new commissioner didn't really look at the calendar. You can't be starting your season on the same night, smashed in between March Madness.
Yeah, but even if they went a day earlier, like they're smart enough to maybe, intersperse the World Series so that they don't interfere with NFL football. But I think that's
right.
Part of the problem. Part of the problem is they know that all these other sports are more popular, but they're not trying to make themselves more popular or more relevant. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'd change the rules, maybe even drastically, so you could get your best players back more. Like maybe do something like, well, we're only going to play once every 2 or 3 days. Your best pitcher can pitch more often, or something, so that if you're willing to do something like you get to pick
right.
when you're change your batting order every time through, or I don't know, something radical, because I know that if I'm a Cavaliers fan, if I'm watching the Cavaliers and the Cavaliers need a bucket, they're going to give it to LeBron, or they're going to give it to Kyrie, and that's that. If I'm watching, and I'm a Bengals fan, and they need a play, they're going to try and throw it to AJ Green. Well, you might have your ninth guy up, but he's not ninth for a reason, and it's like, well, you need a big play, and it's got to come out of the guy that you put ninth in the order, and that's sometimes just like, well, he popped out because he's out there for his glove. I mean, would you maybe like let him have more designated hitters, or more than one, or something, so that it's like, oh, bottom third of innings up, let's go get a beater. I don't know. I'm just throwing out ideas, but I just don't think that it makes for interesting. Speed aside, I just don't think it makes for interesting play.
Yeah, baseball is kind of in a bad spot because it's like a horse and carriage in an era where we're having electric cars and hybrids and all this other stuff. It really just doesn't fit in with today's lifestyle. You mentioned some great points. I mean, but like I said, I mean, if we get to letting a team sub in 2 and 3 players in an inning, I mean, what are we really doing to the core, the core rules and everything of the game? I think one thing they definitely need to do is shorten the season. I don't know how they do it, but let me getting into one thing. On opening day, a lot of teams had 0 points or they only had 1 point. And I just think one thing they need to straighten out really quickly, the strike zone needs to be what the strike zone was as it is in the rule book. We can't have these players sitting up here. You're taking like 2/3 of the definition of the strike zone. You're taking that away from the pitcher. So I think if you go ahead and give them that, these guys got to swing at these pitches. I think another thing, didn't this year, Jay, isn't this the first year where you can't step out of the box? They're working on that. I don't know. I mean, it's slow changes that need to happen, and I just don't know if baseball has the courage to make any of them because they're still doing, well enough.
Yeah,
but you make some great. Go ahead.
They're doing what they did almost back in the 1800s and sometimes. I mean, they put asterisks in rule book. It's like the NFL competition committee meets every year. If they see something that they didn't like in the past year, they change it. There will be no more eligible receivers outside tackle box. Reporting is ineligible. It's like, ooh, we didn't like that. But baseball is like, oh, but that's not historic or something. I mean, the NFL, the NBA, they experimented. Oh, we don't like fouls, and they got rid of it, but they tried things like 3 to make 2, just so that there was less incentive to foul because they figured baseball is so traditional that they're losing the modern fan. I mean, I'm not saying you got to change it all up so it's not baseball anymore, but try it. At least try something. NFL, well, during the preseason or whatever, we're kicking field goals from here. They don't really even try anything. I mean, is it the commissioners to do it? Is it the owners to do it? Because a lot of owners aren't making money. You got big market and small market.
It's tough. It's tough, Brian, man. I mean, because like we went into it last week. We still feel that the baseball game in-game experience, live, is still amongst one of the top 2, in my opinion, experiences in sports. And then it's still a family can still go. They have down in Great American Ballpark, they have the dollar concession stands and things like that, and you don't find that at the NFL games. So I don't know what they do, man. I think in between innings, they do a lot of crowd engagement. They do a lot of giveaways. They got the camera with the kiss cam and the drum sets and all that stuff they put up there. I just think it's a game that people got to go to in person.
Yeah, and I agree, and I've gone to Great American. I used to go to the older Riverfront Stadium for both football and baseball. I get down to some Dayton Dragons games. But at the end of the day, it's all about viewership, and viewership just keeps on going down. And, you can look at the NCAA, they're at 4 more bowl games this year. That's like the maximum that they could have had and still had enough bowl-eligible teams because it's like, well, maybe people aren't watching them in the stadium, but they're showing up and turning them on a TV, so they'll deal with half-empty stadiums. Baseball people will come out and watch, but they're not a TV product.
Yeah, I think with baseball, honestly, I think they need to go to maybe more of a hard salary cap because what's happening is a lot of the players are constantly changing teams. So, back, when we were watching baseball, when we were younger, we had certain players, like you just mentioned, your A.J. Green, when it comes to football. I know the Bengals are going to him or whoever may be, LeBron James in Cleveland. He's got the ball when it's crunch time. But with baseball, there's so many new players changing teams, and you have so many guys coming up from the farm system that we don't know. It just takes us some time to actually get involved with those players and actually learn them. But I think if we go to more of a hard salary cap, I think that'll do well. Also, I think a lot of other sports are ahead of baseball because, in all honesty, sports that is all about offense and score, whether it be basketball, we want to see an exciting game where, the basketball players are putting the ball in the hoop. Football, you can't touch the receivers, so that's to score more points in a football game. The baseball, when it was real big, it was about those guys hitting those home runs. Home runs are definitely down. I don't know if it's due to the steroid era. They're doing better testing now. but I think it has to do with the offense is just not where it used to be, baseball wise. Another thing, baseball, we're not there. There's no much. Remember how guys used to steal bases on the regular? That's not even happening anymore in baseball. So I just think we need to get our offensive game. The offensive game needs to improve for baseball to bring that excitement back, and actually players need to stick with their team more. And if we know our team more, we can cheer for them a little bit more sooner in the season versus waiting till you get to more thicker things when it comes to like playoff. I mean not playoff, but standing positioning.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a good point because I think back to the quote-unquote Big Red Machine where you basically knew the whole starting lineup every game, every day, except for the pitcher. You knew who the closer was. You knew everything. Now it's like, oh, he's gone. He gets traded. Oh, they can't afford him anymore. They could do something like that. But something I would probably be in favor of just to speed up the game would be you step to the plate with one ball and one strike. So already you got strike and ball, and I know a lot of softball leagues do that to speed up the game and get people swinging because you basically only can take one strike, and after that you gotta swing away versus or maybe something like even a couple foul balls and you're out, so you don't get guys fouling them until pitchers make a mistake. Something to get the ball in play, whatever it could be, more often. And I'm probably more than a casual fan, but it's really hard from a TV thing, especially in these high definition days. It doesn't really lend itself to that much instant replay where we can diagram and show the pick, and the technology just doesn't really show the game as well as some of the other sports, and they gotta fix it or it'll be a relic. Is kind of what I'm thinking.
Right. Hey, look, Brian, thanks for the call, man. I got another call coming in, and we want to definitely continue this discussion. So please call back next week.
All right, next week.
Thank you.
Chuck here with your second break of the night. Adrian Peterson met with Roger Goodell in a meeting to see where Peterson is in his rehabilitation, and we now wait for a decision on his reinstatement that is expected around maybe a little bit after April 15th. Is Tiger done? He has taken a new approach to his game, bringing his kids out to the course and having fun, not focusing on winning, but this has some saying that he will never win another major. The Hawks won their 58th game of the season, giving this year's team the most wins in a season in franchise history. Once again, the show will be on Monday next week, so keep an eye out for us a little earlier. Please subscribe. Back on over to you guys.
Caller, you're on with the Fifth Quarter Show. What's your first name and where you calling from?
Family, this is Khalid Jones, calling from Cincinnati.
What's going on, Khalid, man? What you got for us tonight? It's all types of stuff going on in the sports world.
Hey, man, it's a lot of stuff going on. You got Money Mayweather about to show the world on why he's the best ever, pound for pound, smartest ever, pound for pound, best defense ever, pound for pound.
You giving them all of them, huh?
He all of them. I wouldn't put him as the best
power guy,
puncher like offensive, because he's gotten smarter, so he doesn't throw as much now. But he's amazing, man, and he's going to take Pacquiao to Mayweather school.
Do you think it goes the distance?
Yeah. I think it goes the distance, and I think after round 5, Mayweather will control it.
Okay. I mean, we can carry on with that. We are at the 25 days out from the event, so I hope you can call back in the future, as we get closer and see what's going on. There's some boxing coming on NBC this weekend. For the show, we were just getting ready to get into those types of things, so it's great that you called with some boxing stuff. We got Danny Garcia and Lamont Peterson coming on Saturday, like I said, on NBC. And there's also on that undercard is Peter Quillen and Andy Lee go at it. Any thoughts on any of those fights, man?
I'm not really intrigued by the Quillen Lee fight. I'm just not. But the Danny Garcia Peterson fight, Garcia he just gets it done. I don't know how he gets it done. I mean, he's very disciplined in what he does. He doesn't go outside of the lane that he knows, and he's very effective in that lane. And I think he's gonna knock Peterson out.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, I think Peterson. Peterson after the performance-enhancing drugs, and then the robbery that took place in Washington D.C. when he fought Amir Khan.
Right.
I just don't. I don't think. And then he didn't even do the rematch with Khan. I question Peterson's. I question his heart. I don't think he can stay. I think he's gonna get knocked out, to be honest with you.
Well, and then speaking, piling it on a little bit, Matisse put him on his wallet and got him out of there early, and Matisse took the decision loss to Garcia. So you might be on to something there, Kali.
Yeah, the good thing though is that boxing is officially back. I mean, there is when we talk about that weight division, there is a lot of depth when you're talking about Garcia and Mayweather, Pacquiao, Broner's coming up, Terrence Crawford, Amir Khan, Canelo Alvarez, who I think that besides Mayweather, I don't think anybody else can beat Canelo. Keith one-time Thurman. I don't think anybody really wants to fight him.
Nah, I don't think
he's a problem.
So let me ask you this: Floyd has one more fight after Manny. It could be the Manny rematch. I doubt they would want to do that in the same calendar year. But Floyd, typically does May and September. Any percentage on him giving somebody like one time an opportunity before he gets out of the game?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely
that was a
not.
loaded question.
I wouldn't want to see. I don't think his management wants to see him fight Thurman. I think the scary thing about Thurman is that that title one time really defines his skill set. Like, he can hit you one time and the whole night is over. You could be outboxing him, even though I haven't seen anybody outbox him yet. But he possesses a different type of power that nobody else has in that division. And he's in his skill, he's upping his boxing skill as well. Boxers is in a good place right now. I like Deontay Wilder in the heavyweights. Triple G is an awesome fighter to watch. Kovalev is an awesome fighter to watch. I hope they make that happen with Kovalev and Stevenson, I believe. So it's a lot going on in the world of boxing. There's a lot going on in the world of sports,
I got one more question for you on the boxing. It was one fighter that I'm really was liking a lot, but he hasn't been fighting lately, Mr. Andre Ward. I thought that he was, the heir apparent to being, carrying the throne of being a top, boxer, once Floyd Mayweather retired. What's going on with him? Do you ever think he'll get back to the top, where he was? I mean, he was up there as one of the top 3 pound for pound, and now he's has such a break. What do you think his future holds?
Well, unfortunately, he's in a division that there's just not a lot of competition in that division. And then you have to mix in the fact of, these different Showtime and HBO pretty much have the boxing world locked up. And if you're not falling, if you don't have competition on this Showtime card, then you kind of in a holding pattern. And the good thing is that, Mayweather and Pacquiao are able to, work out the contract negotiations and work out the network situation where they both can come together having contracts with two different networks. I really like Andre Ward. I would like to see him fight a couple of these studs out here right now. But I think after Mayweather, I will put Triple G, and then I'll probably put Ward and Pacquiao in the same, right around 3. But hey, that's the unfortunate thing about boxing right now is that the top fighters are either with HBO or Showtime, and when Mayweather went over to Showtime, he took a lot of fighters with him, and it's kind of locked up right now.
K. Jones, to piggyback off of that, Ward signed with Jay-Z's Rock Sports. Doesn't he have to do something exciting in the next 12 to 16 months to really carry the banner for that organization? I mean, does it have to be Kovalev? Does it have to be Triple G? I mean, he's got to do something and get to that pay-per-view level of fighting, right?
Absolutely, and that would be a monster fight. Kovalev, Triple G, that would be, as a boxing enthusiast, Andre Ward and Triple G would be, that would be right next to Mayweather Pacquiao for me. Because
I agree with you.
That is a superb fight. The powers that be, they just got to make it happen, man. Boxing is on the rise now, and MMA is kind of falling off, and they really have to take advantage of this sweet spot and this opportunity to really reestablish boxing as a stronghold in contact sports.
Did you see last week's card that was also on TV? I think it was on CBS.
Yeah, I saw Donna Stevenson fight Bika. That was an interesting fight. I wanted to see how that played out because a good friend of mine, Steve Saucer, felt like Bika was gonna be a split decision, and I felt like Stevenson had the power to get him out the box, and he did catch him with a couple clean ones, but that Bika, man, I don't know why anybody picks him to fight. Because he can ruin your career. Because he has a strong chin. He's going to be there the whole fight.
Yeah, Bika he's a 2x4. He's like a 6'1" 2x4.
Exactly. He is. He can ruin your career. A lot like what's Bernat? What's the one guy's name? I always have a tough time saying his name. Paratnikov.
Paratnikov?
Yeah. He just blew up on the scene, and when he fought Bradley, he was about to end their career. So
right.
Even though he has more skill set than Bika, he's still a 2x4, and he's a tough guy to get out the box, man. So
right.
But that's boxing, man. There's a lot going on in sports, man. There's a lot going on in the NBA. It's a lot going on high school. Wayne Train is establishing a stronghold in the state of Ohio, and
yes, sir.
It's a lot of good stuff happening out there, man.
Right. Hey, well, we appreciate the boxing talk, man. Is there any other subject you want to get on? Because we want to try to work in one more call before we shut it down for the night. But you got anything for us before you get on your way?
One more statement. Steph Curry is the best point guard in the league. Pound for pound. Best point guard in the league. And I will put him as the number 2 player in the league.
Got you. Hey, let me ask you one question.
Chef Curry.
Let me ask you one thing, we don't have to get back in the Final Four because I want to get some other calls in, but one thing that I mentioned earlier, and I'm glad that you brought up, Steph, one thing that I thought was missing from this year's March Madness field was we didn't get introduced to a player like Steph Curry or when Wally Zerbiak went to work. We didn't see that one great offensive player that was like on some obscure team this year that just came out of nowhere and gave us 2 or 3 good weeks of great basketball that we didn't expect. Maybe we could have saw more of Grayson Allen, but was something missing from the field for you this year in March Madness?
No, I think I think the media really hopped on that Kentucky train with them possibly going undefeated, which I never thought that they were going to do anyway. I always felt like if they would have lost in the SEC championship or the SEC tournament, that they were going to win the whole thing. I just didn't see that they had enough dog in them to make that run. But I think we did. We saw some players like that. They just didn't get, Jordan Seibert from UD. He was a force during March.
Right. That's a good point.
There was a lot of good stories, but they were just kind of overshadowed by Kentucky. Grayson Allen, he really showed me something in that championship game and really stepped up. I'm a big Tyus Jones fan. I'm a Justice Winslow fan. There were some good players. I think it just that Kentucky train just really soaked up any story. The Travis Trice was a story.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
He really put in some work, man. He really put in some work. And him being a local Dayton guy, man. I mean, there were some good stories. That's Kentucky thing, and really, I'm surprised that the media is not exposing Calipari for the bad coach that he is, because in that game against Wisconsin, the last in the final possessions, he ran 1-4 low, 4 straight possessions. Right. When Karl Anthony Towns was a man down on the block. I still to this day I don't understand it, but he gets the praise all the time, but he's just not good. He's not that good of a coach to me.
Okay. Hey, man, you gave your first-time caller. You gave us some excellent points, man. I'm looking forward to you chopping it up with the Fifth Quarter show in the future, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Be on the lookout. We'll get that link out, man, so you can share it, check it out. Maybe work on your game if you think you messed up something. All right, K. Jones?
Most definitely, man. Thanks, man.
Peace.
All right.
All right, man. The callers have been on fire today. Some great calls. Great calls. Informative calls. Some very inquisitive interaction. So we're grateful for those calls, and we hopefully will continue to grow. And I think today we had a first-time caller. So,
one guy that hadn't called in quite a few, several weeks. So
right. And the thing about it is, not only are these, these guys are, everybody's calling in. It's just that they're checking for the shows. They're listening for the shows on the internet. So we have some, some great interaction. And as we always say, it's all about the callers. The call time is actually more than our actual talk time, or just about the same.
Right. I mean, that's the end goal, is to interact with you guys and make this space, for the callers. Like Definitely. I said, some of y'all are more entertaining and informative than you'd ever know. And we're just trying to put that in one space to share with the world.
Agree. So we're going to talk about a little bit of entertainment. This is a sports and entertainment show. I think we had some good, sports topics today.
We went a little long on basketball, but this was its week.
It was. I mean, and pretty much there's no more NCAA hoops, until what? Next November. So
October.
We're done with that because we don't really follow the recruiting and all that too well. And I guess we will talk about some local guys if they're being recruited and go to new schools.
Caller, you're on the line with the Fifth Quarter Show. What's your first name and where you calling from?
Devin from Detroit.
Devin from the D. What's going on, man? What you got for us tonight?
I don't know. What we talking about tonight?
Our last caller, man, just put us up on a lot of good boxing talk. You know, the Final Four wrapped up Monday night. Baseball jumped off. The Detroit Tigers went out there with a good start from David Price and J.D. Martinez homered. So what you got for us, Devin?
Well, I just like talking boxing. That's me. I'm a boxing talk. So I like.
Hey, this your 5 minutes, man. So.
Well, I want to talk about the Mayweather Manny Pacquiao fight, and I feel like everybody going. This is going like everybody got their money. I heard going on Manny right now. And I
did hear that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of money going on Manny right now. And I had a talk with a dude yesterday who was telling me all the different advantages that Manny had in this fight that Floyd hasn't seen. And you know me, I'm a diehard Mayweather fan. And so that's what's been on my mind all day today. I've been wondering how this fight going to play out. And for me, I'm going Mayweather all day. And I feel like his style, his counter-punching style is going to be perfectly suited for the way his Manny's aggression. And that's my 5 minutes. I love boxing, and I like talking to Manny Pacquiao Mayweather fight right now.
Devin, do you think that Manny can put enough pressure on Floyd in the first 2 to 3 rounds that where maybe Floyd, instead of studying his opponents like he typically does, do you think Floyd might have to assert himself a little bit more early to kind of, to kind of push Manny back a little bit and not get behind on the cards? Because one thing that I have a concern about, and kind of going back into history a little bit, I remember when De La Hoya whipped up on my man from Puerto Rico.
Trinidad?
Trinidad.
Okay, Trinidad. Yeah.
He schooled Trinidad, and it was just at a point in time where De La Hoya was on top of the boxing world, and I felt like the referee or the judges, I felt like they brought him down a peg and gave that fight to Trinidad. And I just think being at this historical moment in Floyd's career, if he lets it go to the judges' hands, man, and it's close, do they somehow do something to where it's a rematch to get him out of, in September or whatever, whenever they would do it?
That's what I've been hearing as well.
And I don't want to be the conspiracy theorist, but I'm just saying, if a fight can do $350 million in business,
right, and it can do it twice.
Yeah, what's your thoughts on that?
I agree that theory is there. I have thought it myself, and just looking at the gambling lines and the betting lines, it's the closest gambling line I ever seen for a Mayweather fight. So it's a lot of money out there in Vegas right now. There ain't never been no betting lines like this ever before for his fight. So it is a possibility that could happen. I kind of think that in the early rounds what's going to happen is that Manny is going to come out fast, and it's going to be a lot of catch and shoot. It's going to be very similar to what Ricky Hatton was doing with Floyd. And because Floyd, I think, has the height advantage like he does, he's naturally bigger. He has a height advantage. I think he's going to do a lot of catching, shooting, and moving and trying to figure Manny out the first 3 rounds. He might even drop the first 2 because Manny's activity. But after that, I think he got something to prove.
Right.
I think he has something to prove. And from what I've been hearing in different reports, in training camp, he killing his sparring partners. So,
yeah, I heard he wore Zab out.
Yep, that's what I heard. I heard that he beat Zab up pretty bad. So who knows? Who knows? But I heard that he beat Zab up pretty bad, and I heard that he knocked a couple of his sparring partners out. So I think that he might have something to prove this fight because a lot of people have been calling him coward,
right,
going in on him. So I just kind of think, like, he ain't gonna knock him out, but I think he want to beat him up.
Right. Let me ask you a question before we get you off here, because we are kind of at the end of our time tonight. Let me ask you a question. Do you think that one thing? I think this fight is happening 3, 4, 5 years too late. But do you think, as a boxing fan, a boxing head, do you think that finally getting this fight out the way, that now we can focus on a lot of fighters who want to fight to be, to start their own legacy? I mean, we got J. Rock Williams out there, the Errol Spencer kid, Errol Spence. Gary Russell's trying to get on. I mean, it's all we see more Kell Brook, Porter. It's a bunch of guys that are kind of, and even one time Keith Thurman, it's a lot of guys that are held up right now because they're trying to position themselves just in case Floyd would give them that call. Do you think getting this fight out the way really opens up the boxing, all the matchmaking for it?
Time. Even though we have been calling for this fight, I've been calling for this fight for 5 years, 4, 5 years too. I think that it happening now, business-wise, is way bigger than when it would have happened 4, 5 years ago. I don't think it would have generated $300 million 4 years ago, because Manny hadn't showed no vulnerabilities like now. Like, Manny just got knocked out. You know, Floyd is slowing down. Right now is like, I think the fight happening now is the best thing ever for all the other fighters too, because what happened is all these other fighters jumped under Al Heyman's umbrella.
Right. Because
they saw Floyd's career coming to an end. So now they positioning themselves right now for major fights in the future. And Al Heyman is perfectly putting it together by doing the PBC series, and it's spread all over. That, you know, by him putting that PBC series out, it opens up the door for all those big-name fighters like one-time Thurman, you know, the Adrian Broners, Earl Spence, all these guys. Gary Russell just won his belt. All those guys have a chance now to really, they're going to shine. And they're going to have, it is not going to just be 1 or 2 major fights. They'll have multiple major fights. Major fights. So I think that right now the timing was perfect because Al Heyman is able now, has a stable of like 130 fighters or something like that. So he got the most fighters out of anybody under an umbrella. So he, right now, it built up to that level from 5 years ago. So now I think the fights are going to really be great.
I think you're exactly right. And one thing that we know that the fight is going to be a lot huger than it was 5 years ago because of the economy. You know, the economy 5 years ago was in the tank. Right now, the economy is recovering. I think it's going to generate a lot of money, of course, as for Floyd and Pacquiao, but the money it's going to generate for some of these fighters that, you know, you and Wood are talking about is going to be huge for them because it's only going to make their payday even bigger.
Yep. That's why people like Adrian Broner, they turned down Rock Nation's contracts because they see in the future even with Al Heyman right now.
Right.
You know, you give him you turning down $40 million in a 5-fight deal. People were saying, why would he turn that kind of money down? Because he see the future where he can get $100 million in one fight with the way that these fights are being set up, and with it being now on nationwide TV, where a casual fight fan or a person who wasn't a fight fan at all will become a real fight fan. And then now you have more pay-per-view buys, you have more major fights. So that's why I think it was perfect timing.
Damn, you got Al Heyman sounding like Nino Brown. Look at all
the fighters he got under his umbrella.
Right. He didn't put together this master plan behind the scenes, and now, like you said, boxing getting ready to get back up in the big 3 or 4 in terms of popularity of sports. So
yeah. When you have a market that's opening up now, where women are even watching it, where the market is opened up to the point where, you know, women are becoming big fight fans. You know,
right.
That's when you know, okay, now it's spreading to a bigger, a way bigger population. And now you have people flying out to Vegas. You got women just flying out to Vegas on their own to go
Right.
to these fights. So that's major. That's major.
Hey, Devin, man, thanks for the calling tonight, man. Great boxing insight. You put me up on a couple new thoughts I need to think about over the week. Hopefully, man, with the PBC going on, you can call back and break down some of these fights with us. It's a card this weekend.
Yes,
We'd
sir.
love to hear from you next Wednesday.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, man. Take it easy, man.
Y'all too. All right. Thank you for having me.
Peace.
Chuck here for your final update of the night. The Reds continue their series against the Pirates tonight. NASCAR is at Texas this weekend for a night race on Saturday. Starts at 7:30. The race for 8th in the East in the NBA is heating up as Indiana, Miami, Boston, and Charlotte all within a game and a half of each other for the one spot. Next week we'll be on Monday. Keep an eye out for us a little early. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube page, and we'll have a Facebook page up soon. And follow us on Twitter. Have a good night, guys.
So, continuing on with the show, J. Cole, man, his 2014 release, Forest Hill Drive, reached platinum, man. That's huge. I mean, and the thing about it with J. Cole is we talked about, we thought that Jay-Z and his team wasn't doing enough for J. Cole. But evidently, whatever J. Cole is doing in his movement, he's right where he needs to be.
Right. I thought it was great, man. I mean, anytime somebody does something that hasn't happened in 25 years, 10 years, 5 years. I mean, if you do something that hasn't happened in 25 years, this is the first rap CD to have no features on it and go platinum. So,
yes, sir.
That's excellent. What is this? His third?
Number 3.
Hey, we're going to break into our last call of the night.
All right.
Come back to entertainment. Caller, you're on with the fifth quarter show. What's your first name and where you calling from?
Brandon, I'm calling out, Dave.
Hey, what's up, Brandon? What you got for us tonight, man?
Not much. I was just calling to ask you a few things about the NBA tonight. First, I was calling to ask how you feel about the actual players' union and this award.
Hey, you done brought on something I wasn't even prepared for, man. What's going on with this? It's a new award in the NBA?
Actually, the players' union just agreed. They voted and they agreed to have an award ceremony that's voted on just by the players, and it will just be all awards based on players, about the players. They can't vote for themselves, but they're going to have a dinner, and they're going to have a actual ceremony and everything that is all going to be spearheaded by the players.
Wow.
Including an MVP.
Yeah, that's breaking news. I think that's a good thing. Obviously, it's one more award show to add to the calendar. I'm sure ESPN will pick it up, or maybe TNT will have a shot. But I think that's a good thing, man. I think the players, KD, KD's been pretty vocal about the fans calling out some of this stuff when they don't see all of these games. And I've heard other players mentioning the fact that we face these guys. We know who's really a problem. We know who we really hate seeing on the calendar. So I think it's a great thing to get to get an idea of what the players, I think basketball is just one of those sports, that we can look into deeper than football. It's measured differently. And so to me, it'd be very interesting to see who players sit around and lift up as being somebody that's just very great. Because I think Russell Westbrook would probably, that MVP picture would probably look a lot different than what it's going to turn out if the players voted for it.
I haven't heard anything that Harden had to say about it, but I know that Curry supported it. I know that KD supported it, and LeBron he just got elected the vice president, I believe, so he supported it as well. So it'll be interesting. The only question I have is, given that relationship between owners and players, I can see the owners viewing this as a power move by the players. If you're winning these awards or you're getting this recognition by players, how are you going to move forward if you're trying to sign contracts or you're trying to, move to a different city, a different team? What stuff's going to start to hold more weight? I'll be interested to see how it goes, but, the owners seem to have egos and really don't want the players having much power or much say-so. So I like the idea from the player's perspective for everything you just said. I think that it's a way to give respect that you may not get from the fans. And I believe KD even had a way of saying that, he said something along the lines of the media votes for the sexy names, your LeBron, Kevin Durant. And like you said, people like Russell Westbrook will probably get a lot more recognition. So it'll be interesting going forward how this goes. But I think next year is the year that they're supposed to actually do the first vote, and they'll have that first ceremony and give out these awards. I just read about it, so.
I think that's huge, man. I'm glad you brought that up. And I know you guys kind of alluded to this a little bit, but I know it's good for the players to get players recognition, but I think it's an opportunity for the players to not only, get there and have a meeting and sit down, but actually have some kind of business meeting. And what's going on with a lot of these owners, whether it be NBA, whether it be NFL, the owners have so many meetings and conferences where they get an opportunity to, talk business and actually plan for the future. So it gives some of these guys who are not your LeBrons, but some of your guys that are maybe number 8th, 9th, or 10th on the bench, give them opportunity to be with some of the bigger guys and see how they make some of their moves and how to increase their brand. So it gives you a chance to, share some thoughts and some knowledge with some guys who, even though I'm in the NBA, maybe I look up to a LeBron or Kevin Durant or whoever it may be. So I think it's a great opportunity for not only players to vote for players, but just the business side of it. And, some of the, we need to lock out the owners. Let's just do this strictly, like you said, the players union, give us a chance to, share ideas and see how the league moves forward and how it can, better benefit us. And also, you can bring your family there, your wife, your significant other, maybe your kids. I'm not sure. But I just think anytime players can get together and not just on some playing the game, but on some serious stuff and, talk about, some business and power play type things, I think it's a great situation.
I agree.
Hey, well, give us try to quickly get through your other couple thoughts you had, because we were actually getting ready to wrap things down. We want to try to keep the show a little, good talk is good talk. But what else did you have to add, man?
No, the only other thing I was going to say is I think that I finally can say that I believe James Harden has arrived in that conversation. Do I think he deserves the MVP this season? I don't know if I reward 2 months worth of play that the Houston Rockets have now had versus a whole season worth of play that Golden State has had. But I do think that this year, James Harden has finally stepped out of that shadow, stepped out of that, Robin status. And I think that with Dwight Howard's injuries, with the trading of players, with Chandler Parsons departing in the off season, and for them to be holding down the second spot in the West, I think it's time. I believe they took over second. If they didn't, they're right there. They're battling with Memphis. But at this point, I believe it's time to finally go ahead and say that he's a top-tier player.
Yeah, I think, and I hate to take anything away from Steph. I mean, he's on a better team, and it's remarkable that they've actually they might give 65, 64 wins this year in a coach's first year, and I don't want to take that. I don't want to hold that against. I don't want to hold that against Steph because he plays on a organization that's made the right decisions. But like you said, one of the strongest arguments for Harden is if we're going to sit here and say that all the beasts are in the West and that this man has pretty much single-handedly kept his team in the second spot in that West, that's a big feather in Harden's cap once we go to deciding this, as the MVP decision is finalized.
I think so. And like I said, I don't know which one you weigh heavily on, whether it's the course of the whole entire season or just how they play. Because actually, at the All-Star break, they were in fourth, so they jumped a few teams that made moves. I mean, Memphis got better by adding Green. Portland made some trades. They brought in, although they did have a major injury, but they brought in some people. The Clippers have, I don't know how you really describe the Clippers. San Antonio's coming on and probably going to pass them. Yeah, I don't know. But that was all. That was my last comment I wanted to say. You know, finally we might have a left-hander in the league that I can cheer for and say, hey, he might be the best guy coming out there night after night.
Before you get off of here, who you got coming out of the West then?
To be totally honest with you, I'm a Spurs fan. You know, me and Tim Duncan, we share birthdays. I've been a fan of his since he came in the league. But if I have to be honest, yeah, it's a big fundamental. In a 7-game series, the thing that I think is going to define the Western Conference, who can go into Golden State and handle that? They're impressive at home, and I don't think anybody at the end of the day, the energy, the consistent play, their younger guys play so much better at home. I just think it's going to be pretty difficult for somebody to beat them. So I still like Golden State. I know they're young. I think they learned a lot last year, but I think that home court presence with the guys that they have, it's going to be a lot to get over. So I still go with Golden State.
I'm going to pull for the Spurs because that's also my West Coast team. But I think we're going to see what's going to happen. I do think the Oracle being nicknamed as the Rorico is like my favorite is my favorite nickname for as far as gyms in the NBA. Man, we appreciate your call, man. We hope you check out the link when we get it posted. And
definitely.
Hope you call back, especially once we get into I know you called a few weeks ago with a great boxing take, so hope you check out the show more, or check in on the show more often.
Absolutely. It's a big fight this weekend, as a matter of fact, in boxing.
Exactly.
And I'm mad because I missed out last week, and I actually was calling Wisconsin over Kentucky by 8 and leave it to the 82% free throw shooter to miss the free throw, so they only won by 7. So I definitely plan on calling in and staying up to date with you guys. I think what you're doing is wonderful. I appreciate the perspective, and thank you for letting me call in.
Hey, great job. You part of the team.
All right, thanks a lot, man. Y'all have a good one.
Peace. Hey, it's been a great night. We're just taking in calls. That might be a better format that we've stumbled on, right?
Yeah.
To just give a wider window and work them in as they come in.
Improvement.
Right. To finish off this entertainment segment, with J. Cole, like we said, reaching platinum status, and this being his third album with a slew of mixtapes. It's just a great thing, man. I mean, I think he released it in an interesting way. No singles. Just put out the album, the videos. He actually, instead of putting one of the bigger songs, he did a singing song. And I think one testament just popped in my head. One testament to the strength of the album is that a song that he performed on, David Letterman's show, on the Black Girls Rock show that came on, that was broadcast this weekend. Shout out to Regina King.
No doubt.
Faith, she actually performed the song, singing it how a real singer was singing it. So I thought that was pretty big. I can't think of the name of the song right now. But shout out to Jermaine Cole, man. That's great.
Huge, man. Huge. Moving right along. Another OG in the game. Raekwon the Chef, man. One of your favorites. Got a new album dropping on April 28th. I know this is this is your guy right here. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to keep us uniform, talk about all the music, hip hop coming out. He's coming out, got a lot of features, man, and I'm not going to steal your thunder. I'm going to let you take this one because I know this is near and dear to your heart.
Right. So Raekwon came out on Twitter and announced that April 28th would be the release of his long awaited, I think it's been 2 years, a year and a half. But FILA, why did I just forget the acronym? Fly International Luxurious Art drops in the last week of the month.
I researched it.
I'm excited. The artwork came out. The features, I gotta trust in his judgment. I know what he's trying to do when you throw on ASAP Rocky, 2 Chainz. I was a little shocked at French Montana.
I had to ask you about it.
Yeah,
I got it right
I
here.
was a little. I didn't mean to steal your thunder. I understand Snoop Dogg because he's an OG in his own.
Yeah.
The French Montana to be a lyrical guy like
Wall to wall. What's that about?
Right. To be a lyrical guy and then bring on a French Montana who's a glorified hook guy, in my opinion. I'm a little bothered by that. I'm gonna also be for me, but he's got Ricky Rose on there. I'm gonna see how it comes out, man. You know I'm buying it, so
yeah, man. Raekwon is a professional, man, and like you just said, he's one of the all-time greats, really. You know, when it comes to East Coast hip hop, and I know he has a strong fan base. He has some good features on here. He's trying to satisfy some of his West Coast following, his, you know, some of the young folks, and, you know, got some East Coast on here.
2 Chainz, I mean.
So there it is, man. We can't knock him for that. And we do know this. Anything that Raekwon, you know, he puts on the album and he actually spits, it's going to be fire. And even if I don't like it, or Chuck doesn't like it, or even, you know, Wood doesn't like it, my dude Ray is going to like it, and he going to believe in his verse, and he going to go with it, and it's going to do what it do.
I'm going to say before you move to the next thing, man, one thing good about Ray, man, that makes me feel great is Ray got a belly on him, man.
Yeah, he do.
Ray make it, you know, I don't see him doing his promotional and his videos and his promotional rounds and everything, and I think I got to get off the couch. I see Ray, and I'm like, I could just be me.
He can be him, man. And speaking of that belly, you know, that belly is that weight keep you down.
Right.
What's up with Plies, man? He need a little belly on him. How in the world do you get thrown off the stage by a dude that's smaller than you, and you're supposed to be this hardcore rapper, man?
Did you see the video?
Oh, I had to watch it.
It just started blowing up like what was that, Monday night maybe, after the national championship game. Can he come back from that? I mean, I don't know what I was it I don't know if I was listening to Sway in the morning or something. Maybe it was. But they played Shorty. Shorty was a banger. Pain in the hook.
Right.
Back to the video, man. I think he was kind of on the fringe anyway as far as relevance, and I think this just might. Let me ask you this though. This might seal the deal for him. I noticed a lot of guys did not leave the stage to help him out in the video.
At all.
4 and 5 minutes later, a lot of guys were still standing on the stage.
Can you imagine?
He need to clean house.
He got to, man. The thing about it is, you know, we mentioned Raekwon with the belly. Forget the belly. But do you imagine somebody like Raekwon or Snoop Dogg getting that close to them? They're on stage before. You just said it when you went to the Columbus and saw your boy, what's his name? Oh, my God. You know your guy you love.
Bronson?
No, in Columbus.
Talib.
You told, you know, hey, man, you know, I'm going to be cordial, but you got to back the hell up.
Right. I'm over here working.
I'm working. How does Plies let that happen, Wood?
That was kind of that showed the line of the professionals in the game and the guys that are just it's like I said, we just talked about the chef. I mean, what's this, his 6th, 7th album, studio album? Plies he's just a lower level guy in his thinking.
Cause seem like that's the time when, if you a real thug, that guy gets that close to you, you probably got a case on you right now because you probably done swung on him.
You should have saw that coming minutes ago.
Right.
And you're dressing the guy down in front of the crowd, and I didn't even understand the back and forth in the conversation.
Thank you.
It was some ignorant stuff to me, but man, well, I guess, you know,
it is what it is.
I was mad that none of the videos showed like an after for Plies, because I guess you got to go into hiding.
Yeah, it's some weird stuff. I don't know why people follow him, but anyway, Mary Jane season finale, man.
Actually, I was a little premature. The finale is actually next week.
Next week, okay.
Yeah, it's a 2-hour finale. I just want to say this about being Mary Jane and Gabrielle Union. Keep my thoughts quick so we can get out of here. I would just say, man, that anybody, when we look at how much offense one player on a team contributes to the, how much you play a hand in the scoring of the team. 60% is a lot. Man, Gabrielle spends a lot of time on camera in this on this show, and she's showing you the full gamut of emotions. She's happy, she's being sexy, she's disappointed, she's worried about her job, she's fighting to take control of her job. She had an argument with her close friends. She's showing you all these different emotions, man, and I just wish, even if you do or don't like the show, I think she should get some kind of recognition for all of this full range of emotion, this full, spectrum of emotions that she's showing us every week.
Yeah, man, and think about you, Will, where I respect, that's something totally different I haven't heard anybody say. She's actually carrying the show, what you're pretty much saying.
She's got to be on screen. If it's a 48-minute show with commercials, she's got to be on screen 42, 43 minutes.
That's a tough piece right there. And that's eventually what the fifth quarter show want to go to, man. We want to go to, maybe we can do 2 shows, because this entertainment thing is huge, and we want to really, dig into that type of thing and some of those performances that the actors are, actually contributing to the screen. Because, we know a lot of people who talk entertainment. We had the one young lady call in and talk about, the Mary Jane and the Power.
Right.
We can, pull all of those guys together and just have a good 45-minute show. I think it'll do us well. But I really believe that Gabrielle Union is a great actress. She's, nice to look at. And I think she takes her craft very seriously. It's on BET. And BET has a kind of a reputation of, not having good product. But from what I'm hearing and from the little bit that I've seen of the show, it's actually a good show with some staying power. It probably needs to be on like one of those, like cable networks.
Right.
And really get some true love. But it's getting love, but I think it deserves even more.
Right.
All right. Anything else?
Quickly, man.
Go ahead.
One thing and it hit me today, I was like, who is her side piece, or the Cuddy Buddy is what they called the episode last night.
Right.
I was like, who is this guy? It's Thomas Jones. The retired football player? The football player.
Oh, that ain't bad.
He's her bedfellow or whatever.
Okay.
What's
he doing? Is he like a sports guy, or what is he?
He actually plays a football player that's trying to work his way back into the league from like an injury or something.
Okay.
But he had an interest. He's had about 3 or 4 shows, and I like what they do on there. We can get more into that, and if we can break down the finale, I'll try to promote it this week to get in some different opinions for next week. I just want to say really quickly, man, I put Michael Ealy on here. I'm trying to wrap us up, so I'll jump in real quick. But Michael Ealy has been on The Following. Chuck, you check out The Following? No? Kevin Bacon's show on Fox. Man, this was one of the weirdest shows I've ever seen. I mean, it's almost frightening how sickening some of the killing is on there. And Michael Ealy is actually taking a spin as a bad guy. I would just recommend y'all, if y'all can check it out, Michael Ealy as being a bad guy. He's a serial killer on there. And bringing him in, I didn't even know until last week when he debuted in this season. I didn't know what his role was going to be. I thought he was going to be in the FBI with Kevin Bacon, but he's actually an antagonist. And so that'll be interesting how he finishes out this season.
Yeah, I heard they're going to go back and forth in that show. And this is going to be a reoccurring role for the whole season, right?
Right, I believe so. Yeah. He's actually, the first 2 seasons he was chasing Joe and some of Joe's following, and now Michael Ealy has kind of become the main guy, the main target. Also, before we get off of the music, man, Wale was able to secure #1 on Billboard this week.
He did? Well, how many you sell?
88,000.
Ain't bad, man. Ain't bad at all.
Ludacris with like his 9th album, or I think it might be his 9th. He came in with 62,000, and then Kendrick stayed up at in the top 5 at #4. So it was a good week for hip-hop.
What are their singles, real quick? I know we run out of time.
Luda?
What's like Luda's single or Wale's their single right now? I don't know.
I saw Luda with I caught the end of "Come See Me" or "You Can See Me" or something with Big Crit. Was the single that I heard. I only heard the end of it. Wale, to be honest, I haven't been. I tried to check out the Matrimony, the J. Cole cut. I really didn't care for that one. I'm gonna give it a listen this week. I'll see. But Kendrick actually put out a video for King Kunta, which is kind of odd because I haven't seen LA dancing like that in a while, and dancing to a song like of substance like King Kunta. You know, they're usually talking about sitting on something and, you know, smoking something and all that. And it's some LA guys on here and females actually doing like some real hip hop dancing or some very but anyway, so I hit you with that. Plies. Only other one thing I want to say is going into the weekend, man, is that Taraji P. Henson will be hosting from Empire, will be hosting Saturday Night Live, man. And in 40 years, I think she may be the 5th minority female to host the show. So
good stuff.
It's good stuff for the run of Empire being rewarded, you know, for his season. It's a good look for her.
50 trying to get at Taraji P. Henson. Doesn't he want to go on a date with her or something?
You know, if I was single, did we hit on Furious 7?
147 million from Friday to Sunday, and 392 million worldwide.
Big numbers,
huge numbers, man. I didn't get a chance to check it out.
What?
Nah, man, I didn't get a chance, man.
Jay is the premier weekend movie man.
It blew my mind. I was on my way to go see it after Easter outing. We had the whole family in town, and we went out, and the movie is 2 hours and 30 minutes.
Okay.
Now, you know that's just too long for me on a Sunday.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it was just too long, so I didn't get a chance to see it.
If it ain't no whistles involved and it's that long, then.
Yeah, so big props to especially Vin Diesel, because I believe he's a producer of the movie, so I know his pockets is getting real fat. You know, and he's doing big things with that Furious 7. I heard it's pretty good.
I'm gonna take your word for it.
I haven't seen it yet, but we'll know. But I think that's it, man.
Hey, I got one public service announcement. I'm gonna stay away from the second one. If you saw what happened in South Carolina today, if you saw that video,
I already gotta say something.
So you do what you. I just want to really give a straight from the heart PSA. For everybody, man. This father and the 7 children that died in Maryland from carbon monoxide, and the 3 kids that died here locally in Troy, one of them survived in nearby Troy, died of carbon monoxide, man. And me and Christy have been procrastinating about going and buying this carbon monoxide monitor. But please, man, I mean, 7 children died because of not having a monitor or alarm, a carbon monoxide alarm in the house. The guy had the power was off in the house, and he tried to power it with a generator. Very bad decision to have a generator indoors. But please, everybody take a moment. You can even contact your local fire department and try to get one for free. But you can stop in Lowe's, Home Depot. But we just can't lose our lives on simple things, such as carbon monoxide.
Real talk, man. That's definitely real talk. Hey, man, going back to South Carolina, I just have to mention one thing. Our prayers and our condolences go out to the Walter L. Scott family, South Carolina gentleman who was gunned down by the police. And I'm just so grateful and happy for the person who actually videotaped the incident. Because, with that videotape, it allowed, the judicial system to do what they needed to do and charge the officer with murder. Don't know if he'll be convicted or not, but at least he was charged with murder. I'm not going to get into, what happened and whatever, but I just want to say that, when is enough, man. We have to really, it's just shocking to me, some of the things that the police officers are doing right now. I know I was talking to...
Because they're people.
Thank you.
I hope I didn't step on your foot, but they're people. Before you're a police officer, you're a person. Right. So I'm shocked at some of the humanity that I'm seeing displayed.
They're people, and you're a professional. So when you're a professional as an officer or whatever you may do, that's your profession. You should know how to act and react in certain situations. You have certain training that you go through, and it just seems that sometimes that's not taking place. But like I said, thank you, God, for the person who was videotaping, that incident, because who knows what would have happened. I'm all for the officers, and I understand that, when they go out there to protect and serve, we definitely want them to come back to their family to be safe and sound, because I know they have a family also. But this gentleman right now that has lost his life, and his family is going to always be greatly affected by that. It's just, when it's enough, it's enough. And it's to the point where it seems like these officers out here are kind of provoking. You know, when you get pulled over by the police or you're getting stopped on the sidewalk, whatever it may be, they're kind of provoking some individuals. I'm not saying a certain race, but some individuals, and antagonizing them to see how they will react, and possibly so that the situation can escalate to something that could be tragic. So we need to it needs to stop, and it needs to stop immediately.
They covered that on Being Mary Jane a few episodes ago. They had a scene where they kind of highlighted that, tying that into sports, and I'm done. I know we're at our 2.5 hour mark, nearing that. But it's a great show, in my opinion.
It's always
the callers was on fleek.
They were.
I think that's what the youngins say.
Fire.
But just tying it into sports, I was shocked, man, because one of my favorite guys to listen to is Cowherd. And Monday, he actually, in talking about the refs, or Tuesday, in talking about the refereeing, he somehow skirted over to talking about police and was like, "Give these guys a break, get off their backs," and they have to keep dealing with. Just kind of taken aback that Colin, who's usually razor sharp with his takes and his thinking, that he and he didn't have any idea, obviously, of the South Carolina situation. But I just thought it was he kind of flippantly dealt with this issue that really needs to be looked into.
Yes, sir.
And people in Ferguson just weren't out there for nothing. And so and Colin's my guy. And I'm not saying I'm never listening to Colin again.
No
but
doubt.
I'm just saying I thought it was odd that he went off on that tangent with that situation when, like you just said, you're a professional, you've been trained, you've been given the tools to address these situations, and if a 50-year-old man is running away from you, you should have more tools you should have more tools to deal with that situation in a way that has a better outcome.
Definitely, and he's 50. You're 33. As an athlete or I'm just gonna try to run him down myself, not shoot him down. I'm done with that. So as we conclude, it's another great night. Callers were great, man. We had some good dialogue with amongst ourselves, and we're just grateful to be here, and we appreciate you guys to continue to follow us. We'll have this show up probably by midnight tonight. That's the goal, if not early morning. And we just thank you, and we appreciate all the love and feedback that we're receiving from all the people that are joining in.
Hey, it's the Fifth Quarter Show. Play to the whistle.
Out.